We'll call to order the Kingston Springs Board of Commission public hearing for November 17th. We'll open public comments for the following ordinance 22-008, amending notice requirements of Kingston Springs Board of Zoning Appeals as recommended by the Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission. Is there anyone here that would like to speak about that? Then we will open comments for ordinance 22-009, amending Title 1, Chapter 4 by amending language contained in sections 1 through 405 and 1-407 of the Kingston Springs Municipal Code and adding sections 1-412. Is there anyone here to speak on that? And we'll open comments for ordinance 22-010, amending Title 3, Chapter 1 of the Kingston Springs Municipal Code related to court costs, litigation, tax, and forfeiture, and to correct certain other provisions. Is there anyone here to speak about that? All right. Then we'll open comments for ordinance 22-011, amending Kingston Springs 2022-2023 fiscal budget. Is there anyone here to speak on that? Okay. Then we will adjourn the public hearing and call to order the Kingston Springs Board of Commission meeting. That everyone please rise and take the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Don, you can call it what? Aaron Clark here. Tony Grove here. Mike Hargis here. Ben Ribbon here. Oh, sorry. Here. We have a quorum. Do we have a motion to approve the October 2022 public hearing meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor? Aye. Passes. Item 6 is a motion to approve the October 2022 city meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, motion passes. All right, item 7 is a motion to approve the November 17th, 2022 City Commission meeting agenda. Actually, the one thing I guess we should just go ahead and do is we're going to actually, should we go ahead and just remove new business item B because we're going to put that in December. Or should we just defer it during the first? Okay, we'll just separate it. Okay. Okay, so we will do that. So do we have a motion?
Motion to approve as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, we didn't get a second. Sorry, I didn't get a second.
Second.
There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
There we go. My bad. All right, announcements from Commissioner Carolyn.
Just want to make an announcement. I'm sure you're all aware for TDOT, it is No Trash November. And in recognition of that too, I thought it might be good to support TDOT. And since they're the ones that supported us with our sign project, and hopefully get some signs out in November and help stop the litter around town. And it's a good month to do this. Thanks.
November is Thanksgiving month, so I'm very thankful for the city employees and our first responders and our city family that we have here. I'm very appreciative. We have our Christmas lights up. The community looks fantastic. We have the tree lighting ceremony December 1st, and we have Kingston Springs Christmas in Kingston Springs. December, all these are put on by our great city employees, and really appreciate y'all doing this.
Oh, I'm good.
You're good? No final words of wisdom.
No final words.
Okay. Well, you'll have another opportunity.
That's very wise of you.
Be thinking of them. All right, we can move on to community input and concerns. If you would like to address the commission, just step up to the podium and you will have 5 minutes to address the commission.
I'm John McElroy, 215 Woodlands Drive, and I would like to thank you all for the meeting that you had earlier in the week concerning the sewer system. I think it was a good meeting, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into that and the open-mindedness that went into that. I hope and feel that you're on the right track to resolve those situations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, sir. All right, then we can move on to department reports. Nothing to add. Department reports. We can move on to legal updates.
Nothing.
Nothing out there. All right. And we can move on to unfinished business. This is a discussion of updates on the following items, sponsored by Commissioner Clark. I don't know if you'd like to say something, or Don, you want to just dive into?
It's okay. I'll just
Dive on in.
I've got a couple of updates and tick these off, and thank you from Commissioner Clark for kind of combining these outstanding items for us to go back over and cover. The first one is possibility of the town survey mailer for public comment, akin to the 2015 survey. This will be for our CIP workshops. This would be a decision by the board. It looks like we've estimated with about 1,550 homes and businesses, 60 cents postage a piece would be about $950. Manpower to do the mailing, which is just folding and stuffing. The real manpower would come in on the back end and tabulating and cataloging all the information. We don't have funding budgeted for this, so it would need to be something that the board would decide to do and then allocate the funds for it.
What is our final fund? How much are you speaking of? $950?
$950 just, and then it would just be the staff manpower to end up.
Well, 950 would be the postage, that's printing and so on.
Yeah, we need to print it.
Okay.
Is there an allocation of hours set aside? And find out what this total budget, the total project will cost? Or
I mean, we can kind of try to tabulate the number of hours as far as manpower and staff to do that. Bring that back to the board if you'd like.
Or just, I guess, well, if we decide to do it, I guess we would need to just have a cost, because we'd have to have it for the budget amendment.
Yeah, we would need the manpower would just be absorbed. We just need to find the time to do it. And then the actual costs would be for the mailing and then additional envelopes, paper and that kind of stuff.
What is CIP? What's that?
It's capital improvement.
Oh, okay.
I think last time we all did it, it was in 2015. I remember it was remarked that that was a good time to do it because people have just now gotten their tax bills for the property taxes, and everybody's kind of thinking about what they want from the city, what they get for their money. So it's a good time to probably get it out in this month or so.
Yeah, I thought we did it in the spring last time.
It was October.
Was it October?
Yeah.
You got full one, maybe it's really warm.
Yeah,
I remember doing it, but because I remember, anyway, because Pleasantview did one at the same time. They did theirs all digitally. It was an interesting choice. I don't know how well that went or didn't go. I think they had a process for doing it digitally that was pretty low cost, but too. I mean, it's a possibility.
I think you all did Survey Monkey last time, and you did the paper one, because I know I filled out the paper one, but then there was also an online survey as well.
Did we do the online? Okay, I don't recall doing the online, because I know that there were some questions I know about the process. It wasn't being used by using Survey Monkey. I thought that but that was when Survey Monkey was kind of new, so. I don't even know did people still use Survey Monkey? Is it something?
Yeah, we've used the towns.
Yeah, we've used
a ton of other different events and stuff like
So that's possible. I'll let you keep on going, sorry.
Okay. The next would be increase our residential and commercial adequate facilities tax. And Martha, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that the capital improvement plan that we're working on now will need to be put in place and approved to give us, I guess, grounds for raising our residential adequate facilities tax and adding a commercial adequate facilities tax. So the capital improvement plan needs to be approved first, and then after that, we can then discuss raising the residential, adding a commercial. Okay. Ready, John?
Yes.
Okay. Status of AED placement and furnace.
Adequate facilities there.
Adequate facilities tax for commercial, we don't have one. Adequate facilities tax for residential,
40 cents.
40 cents. That's what I was thinking as well. Square foot.
40 cents a square foot.
Yes, sir.
Will you build some?
Yes.
And everybody around us, I think when, I think Kelly, you prepared, it was $1 for everybody surrounding us, Burns and Van Leer and.
That sounds correct, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
talk to my.
Ours is on the low end for sure. But yeah, once we get the capital improvement plan together, then we can address that. Status of AED placement in Burns Park. We've identified the cabinet that we think best fits our needs from Cardiac Science, who is the company that makes the AEDs that we have. So Brandy and I talked about that, and
It's all been ordered.
so they've all been ordered. So they'll be hopefully without delay be here very soon.
Can I interject one thing? Since then, I found out from someone who handles AEDs all the time that there are actually child pads too. that you can get as
We know.
well.
We know, I think the one thing I am concerned about is being outside is the cold. Because it
That's battery.
zaps the batteries so fast. That's why we can't get them in our cars during the winter. So, but we'll address those things.
I'm only
I can talk to
50
you.
miles to the gallon in my car right now.
And on the child pants, you can get child pants, but the adult pants can be used.
They can get used
Okay.
before.
I can talk to also Brentwood too, because there's some signs all year.
And the only problem with the pads and the batteries is they evidently programmed to a very specific expiration date, so it's not a thing we can stock up on, so it's as needed. And cardiac signs, which is all the ones that we currently have, just sold their company a Zoll. So we were kind of in the process of finding a representative, so it took a little bit of time, but everything's ordered, box, AD, and the pad, so everything should be on its way.
Okay, next is placement of 20-mile-per-hour speed limit signs on residential streets, purchase and placement of feedback signs on East Kingston Springs Road and Mount Pleasant. Couple of things that on the updated speed limits of town, our next step is to put additional 30-mile-per-hour signs on Mount Pleasant and Harpeth View Trail, work with the officers, Roger Parker, to map out the placement for each of those sign locations. So 811s will be called in and then those signs will be placed. Other locations have been mapped out. 811s are being called in. There are already 20-mile-an-hour signs on most residential streets, but there are not throughout the street. So there's like the entrance, maybe the entrance and the exit on each side of the road. So that's our next step for that, is to map out the residential streets to find the best placements for additional 20-mile-an-hour signs on those streets, to add those. We had feedback indicators ordered at the end of the fiscal year, but the company that we ordered them from raised the price sort of at the very last minute. Oh, we forgot that it was an additional $2,000 to add this thing that we didn't charge you for. So your cost is considerably higher than we initially thought. So we canceled that order. Waited to this fiscal year. We found another company that fits our needs. So Sergeant Vaughn and Roger and I have talked about that. I think that the company that we have chosen now, different prices, even a little bit better. So we'll get those ordered very, very soon. However, as far as East Kingston Springs Road, TDOT, even though they've given sort of verbal permission, they do have a right-of-way committee or a right-of-way department that will need to get permission from on official TDOT letterhead. So that might take a little bit, but it's a process that we're working on. Replacement on Mount Pleasant. I don't specifically remember, and I might be wrong and missing, but I don't specifically remember us putting flashing lights on Mount Pleasant. We certainly can, but I'd like some direction from the board on putting flashing lights on Mount Pleasant, and if so, where you want to put them.
I thought we talked about it just because the speed is so horrendous there.
I don't, that's fine, we can order, but I'd like to know where to put them. If we do.
Not sure who would want that in their front yard.
They can be, yeah, they can be a bit, I would imagine, distracting. Yeah. So, I mean, if the board would like to proceed, we'd be more than happy to look into it and get some costs for those and place them on Mount Pleasant, but I would like some direction on where to put them.
I understand why we have to decide where to put them when you're deciding where to put them on East Kingston, so
We're not deciding. TDOT will decide where we put them on.
put all the other signs.
So,
That's not what we did for my.
other signs are not flashing.
Right.
So, I mean, if the board wants to let us put a flashy sign out on Mount Pleasant, we'll put a flashy sign on Mount Pleasant. And whoever complains about flashy sign on Mount Pleasant is just gonna have to live.
It doesn't flash all the time, does it?
It flashes when the car goes by.
Yeah, if they're going to speed limit.
When they go over, yeah.
Well, it still lights up and shows.
They show you your speed.
And it only flashes.
They kind of go this early if you're going 5 miles over, or even crazier if it's 10.
Where we come apart.
Don't tell them, I won't tell you how I know that.
I wouldn't mind asking people, I'm not, sent them surveys before, I wouldn't mind asking them. would want that. I know people, when I had the other survey, they stressed that they would want something else done.
What was our worst speed on that road on average?
I don't have that in front of me now, but I think the fastest was 53.
On that one downward section,
Right. And that was in a 48-hour period.
I think the higher speed here carried over in front of Mark Moore's new houses.
Right.
Yeah, we knew actually where the sections are people speed the most. That would be the.
That would be the
Yeah,
ideally
you
the
wanna
place
put a
in
sign
order
out
to
there.
put such a sign.
Like I assume it would be in a kind of straightaway, like, I mean, that whole road's kind of straightaway, but yeah, I guess where you have that
That's
big
the-
dip after the new houses would be,
That would be the big, that would be the high speed spot.
yeah.
So there's houses to be sold, so I'm not sure that's the best place to put it. I don't think Mark would want it there.
Well, you could put it in a yard where they haven't sold a house yet, and then that would be a selling point. But, anyway.
Okay, so. Are we going to then get data on, more data on Mount Pleasant locations?
Commissioner Clark said that she was going to look into that.
I can just talk to people as far as the speed data, I think we had before, I think the cars might be going a little bit faster than that because what we're engaging it with is a speed deterrent device. So the minute somebody sees the speed deterrent, they're slowing down anyway. So I think it's a little bit, it's not a data that's that accurate as far as getting the actual speed of people going. Because I think it's a deterrent. It's hard to gauge something with a deterrent, but I can talk to the people. That's fine.
Okay. That's what we do, then we'll table that till we can get some additional information where to place it. Did we find out about Collier's estimate on the Safe Crossing School was so far off? There were two items, I'm sorry, there were two items in the change order that had considerably higher amounts listed compared to the original documents. One was a combined and this is what I think were the reference question was, but one was a combined concrete curb and gutter. That was miscalculated by the engineers. They used TDOT's older standard drawings, which required 3-inch gutter depths, rather than the updated TDOT standards, which required 6-inch gutter depths. So that's why their calculations were incorrect. They used the wrong table. The second was, and the more costly, was borrow excavation. The contractor initially, or the engineer initially, was using most of borrow is basically the dirt that's disturbed during construction. You put it over in a big pile, so when you need dirt, you've got it. You don't have to haul in extra. The engineer initially thought that the dirt that was going to be disturbed could be used when needed for the project. However, TDOT and the contractor determined that the bill was not satisfactory for the needs of the project. So the dirt that was pulled from this project could not be used as fill, so the borrow had to be added to, as in they're going to have to haul in more dirt to work on the project. So that was the second overage that was grossly miscalculated by the engineer.
Do they have to haul out the original dirt?
Yes, they'll have to haul out the old stuff and haul in the new stuff. Because then the old stuff apparently is not suitable for. I mean, if they're supposed to. So, see, next in our budget workshop, we decided that the Farmers and Artisans Market Fund was going to be used for train depot purposes. The last meeting, $8,000 from the Farmers and Artisans Market Fund was designated for the stage. Can you clarify? So currently we have $13,000 in the Farmers Market designated fund, which is the money market, that was mentioned as far as the Farmers Market Fund. And we will be using $8,000 of that Farmers Market Fund, the money market, for the stage. That leaves us $5,000 currently in that market fund, plus whatever we finally end up calculating for the profits for Dinner on Main. We did earmark $3,000 of that designated fund to cover grounds work at the farmers market site, because that grounds work was directly beneficial to the farmers market. We also budgeted in the current 22-23 budget $4,000 for a structural engineer to look at the stability of the depot currently, another $3,000 for grounds work, $2,000 for janitorial service to clean the inside of the depot, and then another $15,000 for demolition and dumpsters. However, since we were able to find someone to repurpose the house on that lot, we're not going to need to spend near that $15,000 amount. So that will clear up a lot of those funds. But as far as using the designated farmers market money market account for the stage, that was a more immediate expense, and that was an easy place to find that money, especially since that stage will really benefit and be used predominantly for the farmers market. Very good. Okay. Was a blind driveway sign located? Yes, we usually wait and collect 6, 7, 8 sign requests before, instead of just making one-off orders to Econo Signs. We have an order list now ready to go, and that'll be submitted tomorrow. So we didn't have a blind drive sign available, so that'll be along with other street signs that seem to be missing at a much greater rate than they have in the past. Yeah, so we do have quite a list of signs that are being ordered tomorrow morning. Status of the late night signal flashing at East Kingston Springs Road and Harpeth Trail. We were hoping to save the cost of doing that, because that's probably going to be $1,000 for them to come out and reprogram that light. We were hoping to save that cost and tie it in with TDOT's addition of that left turn signal on the Harpeth Trail, because they're going to have to reset all that anyway. Until we just recently found out that that project won't go out to let for TDOT until probably next summer. So because of that, we we'll go ahead and get our guy out there to reprogram that light. We'll get on this list. He's usually what, 3-4 weeks out, something like that. So we'll get him on the list. He'll program the light. And I think just to clarify, I think we said 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. I'll go back in a minute and but I think that's what we said.
I mean, that's an awful lot, but it's $1,000 to get them to program the thing.
Yeah, that's a guess, an estimate,
Okay.
but it's fairly expensive.
What is it flashing now?
It's just
It
regular
does.
functioning.
But it only stops the traffic on the main road if a car pulls up on Harpeth Trail and triggers that there's a car. So if you're going through there at 2 o'clock in the morning, unless somebody's coming out of Harpeth
It's
Trail,
gonna be green.
it's gonna be great.
Well, that's what people were complaining about when they complained to me about it, just that they do work at night and they would come and somebody would trigger the light and they'd be at the top of the hill. By the time they get down there, they're coming up on a red light and the car already takes its free ride.
Well, the other side of that is if you're having a speeding issue in East Kingston, that is a traffic calming device. That is something that people don't know if the light's gonna be red or green or yellow when they're getting to the light. So they're going to automatically be slowing down, looking for, is it gonna be a red light? That's the only thing that my comments would be for.
That's good.
I don't know, I mean, it seems like a lot of money to benefit maybe 2 or 3 people.
We're turning left.
Yeah, we're straight.
I don't know, I feel like that would be, we would be poor stewards of the taxpayer if we spent $1,000. Maybe it'd be something to go ahead, even if the turn signal, we wait till the turn signals change. I don't have an objection to necessarily doing it, but I don't think that a special trip for $1,000 to do that, so.
And we can get a more defined cost.
Cost,
Bring
but
it back
yeah,
to the board and.
that's awful high.
you like
And I
to
thought
do
we
that.
decided on it.
500.
I mean, I thought we had decided now, this seems to be changing. but-
We didn't decide on the cost.
I just know, I didn't know it was that expensive. I had no idea how much it costs to program a traffic light.
Nothing with the red light being cheap. Everything they do is expensive.
It's in,
The red light.
they got the more market cornered, I guess. I know it takes a long time for them to get out a lot of times. They stay busy and they got the market corner.
They're yellow, they're red, and they're together.
Yeah, there's not a lot of choices. We've got one guy, basically, that we call. That does that kind of work locally. Well, and they're not even really local, but in the middle of Tennessee area. Okay, we can bring, we'll see if we can't get somebody out
Find out what that's gonna
more
cost.
familiar with the process and get more defined and cost. Okay, very good. The last one on here is the status of Carpet Meadows private versus public. We believe the town's got a path forward with the Harvard Meadows Homeowners Association to dedicate roads to the town and are moving forward in that direction.
Very good. All right, we will move on then to second reading of ordinance 22-008, amending notice requirements to Kingston Springs Board of Zoning Appeals as recommended by the Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission. So this is the last meeting, this is the second reading. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Section C, paragraph 2 was updated to reflect the time frame of certified mail notification.
Oh, yeah,
Since we didn't- yes.
Traded the secondary one. All right, do we have a motion?
Motion.
A second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All, any opposed? Motion passes. All right, item C is second reading of ordinance 22-009, amending Title 1, Chapter 4 by amending language contained in sections 1-5405, 1-407 of the Kingston Springs Municipal Code and section 1-412. And do you have anything you need to add to this as well?
Change.
Any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Actually, I guess, do we have a second?
Second.
Now, I guess, is there any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
One opposed? Passes. Item D is second reading of ordinance 22-010, amending Title 3, Chapter 1 of the Kingston Springs Municipal Code related to court costs, litigation, tax, and forfeiture, and to correct certain other provisions. Nothing has changed, so.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And then item B is second reading of ordinance 22-011, an ordinance by the Kingston Springs Board of Commissioners to accept a budget amendment for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
No changes.
Changes? Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
John, could you please call the roll?
Carolyn Clark,
Yes.
Tony Gross,
Yes.
Mike Vargas,
Yes.
Glenn Ritter,
Yes.
Todd Sutton.
Yeah.
Motion passes. All right, on to new business. A motion to approve resolution 22-016, authorizing the town of Kingston Springs to participate in the Tennessee Department of Environmental and Conservation ARP non-competitive grant program. And
This is required by PDEC as far as their issuance of the ARP funding for their non-competitive grant.
non-competitive grant
So as part of that grant application process, we need a resolution from the town giving basically staff permission to proceed.
for $700,000, correct?
$701,132.10.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none, motion passes. Item B,
Back up a second.
yeah, go ahead.
This one's 700. I thought that was the competitive grant program, and the other one was 800. Is that not correct?
So the 800 is what we just automatically get from the American Rescue Plan, and then this is additional funds the state received as a whole.
All right, so
And
that
it's
part's not
non-competitive.
competitive. Now, what I'm thinking about.
And then there
is
might be-
Another bucket that might be competitive.
That's it.
Summer.
Just trying to get my head around.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I think that the third one, if I'm correct, if I'm wrong, is if people don't use those
They don't
funds,
use
then
that.
we might get another crack at it. So,
Okay. Yeah, and that would be competitive.
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
All right, item B, do we have a motion? What would be the best to defer this? Do we have a motion to defer this meeting? Motion to defer. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item C is a motion to approve resolution 22-018, authorizing cooperative purchasing agreement for the use and benefit of all town departments.
This is a cooperative purchasing agreement that we've had in place for several years with company. Did you ever,
I didn't.
we've had it long enough where the company name actually escapes us, but company A is what we'll call them. Company A was acquired by Omina, OMINA. So this resolution is to basically a change in name because the paperwork we have deals with company A rather than this new company. Nothing has changed as far as the agreement goes, but this resolution just gives us the approval to work with this new company, same company, new name.
Are we still in a competitive agreement with the MVP.gov or was that a one-off?
I think that my understanding is once you are in a cooperative agreement, you are in that cooperative agreement. There is not a time frame.
What's the difference between that one and this one?
They usually service different types of things. This one is more parks related. So, I guess I'm saying that right. Is that right, Randy?
It's just different vendors using different co-ops.
And there are
This
you know,
is-
hundreds of co-ops out there. So the more you're in, the better off you are because you get better pricing.
Motion to approve.
Is that a motion? All right, do we have a second? Second. Is there any further discussion? Good. Good. All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. All right, item B is review and awarding a bid to town salary study. We all probably have information in the packet, but Don, you want to expand upon this some before we award said bid?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An RFP for a salary study was advertised with a due date of October 21st. One proposal received. It was from Burris Thompson and Associates. Their proposal included all the information requested and they come highly recommended from other municipalities. And you can see that list of municipalities in their proposal. Their total fee for the study is $7,280, which is $280 over the $7,000 that were funded, that was budgeted in the line item for this particular study. The 280 can easily be acquired from other line items in the budget, and staff recommends that we approve this proposal.
It's a comment on this. I was reading through their cost proposal detail, and I'm just wondering if this was, it seems just kind of excessive for a town our size. It seems like they might deal with a lot bigger corporations and companies, and some of the stuff where I would put a stop after recommending employee salary adjustments, that's great, because it seems like a foregone conclusion that there will be adjustments.
Salary.
And that seems, and then that goes on to revisions based on feedback, develop pay administration policy, develop implementation plan, final report, and then it comes to the commission. It seems like they should come to the commission before that point in time. It seems like it's like, to me, it seems like foregone conclusion, this will happen, and this is what's going to be presented to us. And there's not going to be a chance for us to see the comparisons that they're coming up with, the comparisons soon, because they're doing a lot of work before we get it.
Yes, and all that work will be presented to you. So this is, the thought is that this company will come in, will assess the positions, will assess the roles of that position, what the work entails for each of those positions. Kind of quantify those positions with both governmental and non-governmental work in the area, as well as help us come up with probably a more efficient way that we might be able to do business. We'll put that proposal together and submit it to the board, and then the board then can choose to accept that or not accept it, or accept pieces and parts of it. But the goal is to have a third party to come in, assess the positions and the salary for each one of those positions. So we will have a better understanding of where we are.
I've had constituents contact me concerning this. Why are we not able to do somebody in-house if they just call and investigate what other matching communities are paid? I felt to really have the answer at the time. Can you answer that?
I mean, we can, and we do have that data, but it's not helping us much.
This just seems like a big company, a big corporation type of study.
They will provide some,
Like 18 employees.
they will provide some very valuable information. She would say.
And the one question I had, of course, was MTS is not capable of doing this, correct?
InPass does a salary study.
Not,
It's not, the participation rate in their salary study is pretty low. That data is out there. They're actually conducting another one now. Again, it's information that we've presented to the board in the past.
So at the retreat, I think you presented stuff, you presented salary increase proposals then. I guess it feels on my end, sometimes it's like a plaintiff and a defense in a lawsuit where the plaintiff hires an expert witness, the defense hires an expert witness, and the expert witness says what they're paid to say. And that's because I know that town has been pushing for salary increases for a while now. I just think it just seems like a foregone conclusion that we're going to be presented with big salary increases that the town might not be able to afford.
That very well could be the case.
And we're spending $7,000 to do that.
Yes. And it's the thought is that this is a third independent party. So, it eliminates any, I'm going to use the word that I probably shouldn't use, but I'm going to use the word bias. It eliminates any bias that, I work here, Kelly works here, everybody works here. So we're saying that we need more money. And this is a third party coming in that will assess the jobs that everybody does, will assess what everyone is paid, and then compare that to other people, other agencies, both governmental and non-governmental, and then come up with a recommendation that is unbiased from the inside. It will be purely from the outside, and it will be independent data. That was the thought process behind this.
So do we have job descriptions now? Remember, I had asked for job descriptions about 4 months ago. There's some new work on those with MTS.
We have job descriptions for just about every job that we have. Yes.
I'd asked to see copies.
Oh,
And
sure.
you're still working on them with MTS.
So we do have job descriptions, a lot of them are out of date. That's something that we have been working on with them past for quite some time. This third party company will also be able to look at those job description and job descriptions and give you a true FSLA recommendation that would say whether or not someone needs to be an exempt salary position or a non-exempt salary position based on the classifications that they're in. So that would be something else that we would be asking them to help with. And we have some of those recommendations from NTAP that unfortunately we only get so much time with NTAP for these things. Now, NTAP did provide us a list of people that do this and made the recommendation for us to do this RFP.
I guess I would want to see the old job descriptions just as a comparison with what we're going to see in these new ones, these two.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak or not, but one thing on the job descriptions that everybody needs to remember is we're a very small state. What's written into your job description, let's say is a public safety officer. When you end up assisting with dinner on Main and the Christmas tree lighting and all the functions that we have to work as a team. There's not an employee one that works for the town that falls under a job description that is just, hey, this is all you do. You don't step out of the box. This is your job description. And I feel like that's what's hard to capture when you're looking at salary adjustments is what are you getting for that employee? You're not just getting this little job description. And it is a team and a team effort, or there's many events that could not happen without the entire team. And I don't know of not one person on this staff that no matter what they're asked to do, whether it's in what would be a job description or not, they're right there. And I think that's very important for y'all to know that when you look at these job descriptions, yes, that is part of it. But making this town work day to day, that's all of our jobs.
I mean, the example I always think of is one time we were interviewing city managers and potential city managers, and one of the applicants kind of appalled by the idea of maybe having to like clean his own floor, and I was like, you wouldn't work here.
Yeah, this girl's coming to it.
Yeah, I'm like, that doesn't happen here, so. All right, well, we have a proposal for a salary study. I mean, there are probably some pretty good advantages to having this data. It does seem like a pretty high price tag for said data, but you know. I suppose that's it's a pretty, I mean, we budgeted $7,000 for the study and it's $280 over that. So it's within the realm of what we budgeted for a salary study when we did the budget. So.
I think one of the things that we'll take out is emotions out of the equation, and the third party would be an objective observer. But one thing that I would like to see is, I think we talked 2 years ago about getting reviews for staff,
That's part of the process.
and there has not been a review yet.
Yeah.
So
Well, those reviews would not come before the board. Those reviews would be internal with the staff and the department.
but we don't have it.
Yes,
We have reviews.
yes, we sat down with the department heads and I've had reviews. with them, yes.
Okay,
This is what I find is difficult, is that that's internal, I understand that. But then in the meeting where commission is to consider something, the employees will yell, but weigh in on the process. And that just,
I understand.
that the employees are weighing in on our process of voting on this particular issue that has to do with their salaries. And
I'm not trying to weigh in, I'm simply trying to make everybody understand that it's a very broad position for every employee of the day. I can't affect your vote one way or the other.
Up to board.
all right, well, what is the will of the board? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve awarding the bid for town salary.
Do we have a second?
I say,
We have a second. All right, John, would you please call the roll?
Carolyn Clark,
no,
Tony Gross,
Yes.
Mike Hargis,
yes,
Glenn Remick,
Yes.
Bob Stoller.
Yes.
All right, we have 4 yeses and 1 no, so the motion passes.
one of the things I could be added to this, once that report thing, John, is, if there's upward pressure on the need to adjust salaries, is a calculation of what the property tax increases would look like to reach those objectives.
That's actually a very good point.
If it's less, then that, we don't have that problem, right? If it's more, which you seem to think it is, then the question becomes, how do you fund it and how long does it take to get you there?
Yes, and that'll be part of the plan that we'll work with the consultant to make sure
The
that.
consultant doesn't know the tax revenue, that's why I'm looking for you.
Yes.
For you, is what kind of tax increase, if you just did what the consultant said, what's that look like, impact on your tax rates?
Right. Yes, we'll have that information.
Great point, thank you. All right, item E is approval of Second South Cheatham Utility District to refund secondary meters in the amount of $20,964.92. That motion,
I think,
did you have something to add?
I do believe that Commissioner Hart.
I have this thing, because I'm on the list, I have a secondary. meeting.
It's $1,500.
Oh, no. Been lowering a lot.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, big month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right, we have no surplus, and we will move on to one last item for discussion only. Not too much discussion, and that is, this is one of our merry band's last night on the board here, and Bob Stoller. He's I like to think of Bob this way. He when he was a little bit younger man, he served his country in the Marine Corps, but he's always been somebody that stepped up to the plate when he's asked to serve. And he served this town in a lot of ways. He served as a city commissioner as he is right now. He served as the vice mayor for a period as well, and he's also served on the planning commission. And anytime the town has called him, he's always said yes. And I really appreciate that, Bob. And I actually brought this picture along for anybody that didn't see it. This is Bob and Glenn and I on our cornbread tasting a decade ago. And I believe, how many years have you served on the board now, Bob? 8. Yeah. So I think there was 2 years. He took a 2-year break, and then he was back. And
He thought he was out, but we drug him back in.
brought him back in. And he's been such a good voice of reason and always had a lot of great input. I don't think we
You just convinced me to vote yes. I mean, I think about that, yeah.
So I really appreciate your service to the board, Bob, and we're gonna miss having you here immensely. And that's that. Continue, I believe, with your second
That is my
for your second tour of duty here to the town.
You come back and third time.
You wanna go in front?
Yeah, we get a
We'll get up front and get some pictures with Bob here. So.
So next time, no.
Yeah, I can do it.
Oh, we know that's not true, Bob.
2 years ago, not 4.
It's in the middle,
You here?
Yeah. I don't know.
What's around?
What's around
Here?
here? Yeah, there we go.
I thought you said, I must say next to Bob, we were.
Oh, yeah. We should. Three.
Smile.
Bob.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure this year. It's been, it was not a learning experience like the first year was when the initial vote, I think that Tony and Glenn and myself had was how many chickens did we have?
1 rooster, 19 chicken roosters.
And Tony Campbell, the former mayor, deferred until the young guys voted. They didn't want to.
There,
The mayor was right there.
Yeah.
Oh, you were?
Well,
Yes.
I think you came in when I went out,
Yeah,
okay.
Time-wise, yeah, she was on the board.
We dumped that one on you.
Yeah, the chickens.
Gary didn't want
We had
it.
a meeting.
The great chicken debate.
We'll leave that for you guys.
That was the deep decision we had to
They went on there 7
make.
minutes.
Yeah. right after that. So yeah, it's actually very appropriate. We have 2 members of the outgoing board. Way back, a full 10 years ago, so that's 2012.
And speaking of 10 years, Mayor Gross, Commissioner Remick, 2022 is their 10th year of service.
So, well, once again, thank you, Bob. And the only other things we have are the reminders. I think, Glenn, you hit most of them. It's other than City Hall will be closed next week, the 24th and 25th of Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, and Christmas tree lighting, of course, December 1st, and the big Christmas celebration on December 11th. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Go a second.
Start.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.